Happy Thursday, everybody. Meteorologist Hunter Forst here with your tropical update. We have a little over 3 weeks left of the 2024 Atlantic hurricane season. And even though you see the activity really ramp down heading into November, we still have a hurricane out there, Hurricane Rafael, which was a major Category 3 storm as it approached Cuba and made landfall as a Category 3, now down to a Cat 2 as it enters the Gulf of Mexico. But there's also another area we're watching over the next week. So even though, again, the activity really ramps down for November, we still got to keep an eye out on the tropics. So here is the latest on Hurricane Raphael, down from a Category 3 to a Category 2 after it made that land interaction with Cuba. Winds at about 100 miles per hour, gusting to over 120, moving to the west-northwest at about 9 miles per hour. Now, when you think of a hurricane or a tropical storm entering the Gulf of Mexico, normally they really ramp up and strengthen quickly because there's a lot of warm water. The wind shear isn't that strong or present in the Gulf of Mexico. And that's what we've seen the last couple of months during the hurricane season, especially with Milton. You remember it started just in this area over here in the southern Caribbean and then ramped up, or in the southern Gulf of Mexico, and really ramped up into a Category 5. And not a very long period of time, but as we get later into the season, especially in November, you see a little bit more wind shear, a little bit more storm systems kind of drooping their way down into the Gulf, which could limit these from developing, and also the water's a little bit cooler as well compared to the peak of the season back in September. I mean, the waters are still fairly warm, but not as warm as the peak of the season. So again, as it continues to push off towards the west, it's going to continue weekend heading into Friday as a Category 1, a low-end Category 1 for Saturday morning, and then it drops down to a tropical storm for Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and kind of just meanders in the Gulf of Mexico over the next couple of days and not interacting with really any land. If you're heading to any of these areas along the Gulf of Mexico, from Florida over towards Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, still could see a few areas with a bit of rough surf and maybe some areas with the chance to see increased rip current. So keep that in mind if you are heading to those areas along the Gulf Coast. But we'll see here with the GFS model, it kind of differs from the National Hurricane Track right now. It kind of meanders off more towards the north. But what these models are really agreeing on is that it's going to continue to weaken over the next couple of days, which is really the best part of this situation. It's going to make its way into the Central Gulf Friday, Saturday, into Sunday as well, but you'll see it really weakens heading into Sunday and Monday and kind of falls apart and dissipates heading into the later or the early parts of next week. Over the next couple of days, though, let's compare the models, the American model in yellow, the European model in red, and they're in really good agreement heading into tomorrow, just to the north of the Yucatan, getting into the center of the Gulf of Mexico, starting to weaken a bit, and you could tell that the lines of equal pressure you see less of those. When you see less of those on these models, that just means it's continuing to weaken, and that's what we're starting to see. But with these models, they're separated on where they want to go. The American model wants to go up towards the north. The European model wants to go a little bit more down towards the south. But once we get into Sunday and Monday, you see these lines disappear, the lines of equal pressure. And that's great news because the storm kind of falls apart and dissipates due to the wind shear and the cooler waters. So that's great news that both of these models are saying that this is really just going to fall apart and not even affect any more land as we go throughout the next couple of days. So best case scenario kind of happening as it enters the Gulf of Mexico. But also, even though, again, we're heading towards the end of the season, we still have one more area we're watching out there right now, just to the north of Puerto Rico, only about a 20% chance of developing within the next week or so. So we always have to continue to keep track of these storms as we go throughout the next couple of weeks, because still something could form as we go throughout the next couple of days. We have Raphael out there right now. The next storm on the list is Sarah, eventually Tony, Valerie, and William. Hopefully, we won't have to use these names as we go throughout the next couple of weeks here. But of course, we'll continue to keep you updated here at 13 News Now for the rest of the 2024 Atlantic hurricane season.